Hello, hello, hello. It's Lillian Reiki here, the parenting strategist from the Parent Support Network, coming in today with episode 21 of Parent Support Network TV. And my topic today is about children lying or telling untruths, or perhaps covering up the truth. And this, the reason I'm sharing this today is it came out of a conversation I had with one of my parenting clients last week, who has done my Nurture Your Heart to Greatness course and is doing super well with it and her family with her family. However, she wanted to ask me some questions about a 14-year-old child, a young boy who was telling fibs, who wasn't telling truths. And they weren't necessarily big untruths, but just the same, they were they were not something that this caregiver wanted to energize, I guess, because we don't want to energize the things that we don't want to grow. So this young man at age 14 was just saying things like, you know, chocolate had gone missing, for example, and no, it wasn't me. Or what was the other one? So the one was about chocolate, one was about a piece of clothing that got ruined, and denying that he knew about it or he had anything to do with it. And I think the third one was about using his lunch money for something that he wasn't meant to use it for, so not buying the lunch that they'd agreed to buying. So they were all like what we might call small little untruths, but still the same. A lie is a lie. So whether it's a small lie or a big lie, a lie is a lie. And it is concerning for parents. And of course, we want our children to be honest and truthful. So if you've been following me in the Nurtured Heart approach, you would know, and you've probably already listened to my episode where I talked about teaching the rules when the rules are being followed, not when they're being broken. And I know sometimes this is a really tricky thing to get your head around, because surely when kids are telling a lie, we want to call them out on it, right? As in the title of this talk. So I actually looked up some stats on lying, or some information, and I thought I might just share a few with you. So lying in truth is a milestone of normal child development and starts as early as age 2. So more than 1/3 of 3-year-olds will lie to keep from getting in trouble, based on research, and they quote the research there. By ages 4 to 7, more than half of the children will lie to avoid punishment, some more research quoted there, or to gain attention or approval. And they quoted various studies in different countries around the world, including Britain, West Africa, and China. So I thought that was interesting, that children will lie to keep from getting in trouble, firstly. Children will lie to avoid punishment, and children will lie to gain attention or approval. So this really, sits well with what we teach in the Nurtured Heart approach, in our philosophy of upside down parenting, because often unknowingly, or, without really thinking about it, we actually give more energy to what we don't want to grow. Just like my analogy with the watering can, we wouldn't go and water the weeds that we don't want to grow. We want to water the plants and the flowers and the veggie patch, etc., that we would love to grow. So, so in saying that, in keeping in vein with the Nurtured Heart approach, we actually teach children about being truthful in moments when they are being truthful, when they are even moving towards being truthful. They might have actually even said something that wasn't true seconds or minutes ago, but then they move closer towards, telling the truth. And you could even say something like, I know that in this moment you could have really, continued on and said it was a certain way, when perhaps in your heart that wasn't the way it was. And I'm really proud that you have decided to share it the way it really was. And what that really shows me about you, that really shows me that you you have the greatness of being truthful, you have integrity and honesty, and I really love that in you. So you could have said something like that, which is very Nurtured Heart. which is using stand one, and what's probably using all the three stands, because first of all, it's using stand one, not giving energy to the negative. So you're not going in and saying, I know you're lying, I saw what you did, or I know it was you, tell me the truth. And how often did we say, tell me the truth and you won't get into trouble? But here they are already getting into trouble, right? So, using stand one, not energizing the negative in that example that I just gave. Stand two is acknowledging greatness and acknowledging quality. So in that moment, even though they maybe did tell a little bit of an untruth and then maybe tweaked it and decided to change their mind, instead of calling them out on the untruth, we're actually acknowledging them for coming clean and telling the truth. They may or may not do that, right? But if they don't do that, if they don't tell the truth in that moment, we wait for the next opportunity when they are truthful. And it might even not be about that particular incident. It might be in another occasion that we can really call them out on being truthful. Because if you think about those things that I just read out, kids tell lies so they won't get into trouble, so to avoid punishment, and or to gain attention or approval. And if you think about it, they're all things that we don't want to grow, do we? We don't want the kids to feel like they have to tell a lie, because if they tell the truth, they'll get into trouble or they'll get punished. That's, I'm sure most parents would agree with me, that's not where we want to go. And obviously, you know, for kids who are seeking relationship and attention or approval, you know, we don't want them to learn that they gain attention or approval from us through doing the wrong thing, i.e. telling lies or untruths. So it goes on to say that parents are remarkably bad at detecting their children's lies. In experimental studies of preschoolers, parents were able to detect accurately when their children were lying only 53% of the time, a little better than chance according to a 2010 study. That falls to 33% by the time the kids are 6 to 8 years old, and parents of 9 to 11-year-olds have only about a 1 in 4 chance of knowing when their kids are lying. So I don't really feel it's a positive thing that our kids become good liars, right? Because, you know, we want them to grow up with integrity. We want them to grow up to be honest. We want them to grow up to be able to tell the truth, even if sometimes, you know, they may have done something that they probably regretted or no, they shouldn't have, but it's all in the way that we actually react to them. And there's no Pinocchio's nose to serve as a reliable signal that the child is lying. Sometimes kids will glance away uneasily, shift from one foot to the other, or cross arms in front of the body, but not always. Also, kids get better at concealing lies as they grow older. And once again, they've quoted various research there. And the cleverest lies are often told by the most focused and socially savvy kids. To tell a plausible lie, children must be able to understand how others see things. They also have to be able to maintain an alibi in the face of parental questioning and scrutiny. Children with good executive function skills, including self-control and the ability to focus on tasks, tend to be more skillful liars. I know I would rather grow, you know, my children's self-control and the ability to focus on tasks in more positive things, and hopefully you'll agree with that. So, you know, so my client actually said, so what do I do? And, you know, she's been doing such a good job with the Nurtured Heart, but when I asked her, I said, so how did you react? She kind of called him out on it, but she did it not in an angry, raised voice way, but she called him out on it still. And in the true vein of the Nurtured Heart approach, that is still giving energy to the negative. It's still giving energy to what you don't want to grow. Just imagine with every communication and every interaction you have with your children, imagine you've got that watering can in your hand. Am I watering what I want to grow, or am I about to water what I don't want to grow? So it's about really looking for every opportunity where the child is actually telling the truth, and it could be related to the issue where they didn't tell the truth, or they might have stretched the truth or denied something. And we actually sometimes corner kids into telling untruths because we put them on the spot and then they don't have time to think about telling it the way it really was. And because they don't have time to think about it, or they're feeling like, oh, am I going to get into trouble type of thing, then they tell one untruth. And then they feel like, okay, I've told that untruth. So now to cover up for that untruth, I need to tell another untruth and another one. So one untruth leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. I know that I was in a relationship in the past with a person who told a lot of untruths, and it was actually the undoing of our relationship, because I just couldn't handle the fact that that person thought that I was vulnerable or silly enough to believe their untruths and their lies. And some of them were, the person wasn't even a good liar, if that makes sense, and they were an adult. But I later did learn from that person's siblings that that person was actually, as a child, was allowed to get away with lying. So they weren't recognised for when they told the truth, if that makes sense. That wasn't grown in them. So they actually decided it was okay to tell untruths and to tell lies because it was accepted, and they weren't acknowledged when they did tell the truth. So they really just didn't know the difference between, the feeling that being truthful was compared to the feeling of not being truthful. And we know that little kids do tell untruths, and as those stats show there. But wouldn't you want to grow in your child that they are an honest and truthful person from as young as possible? So even a little innocent untruth from a 2 or 3 year old, rather than really calling them out on that, just looking, it could be seconds later where we can then acknowledge them for being, for being truthful, for being honest. And helping kids to understand that sometimes we make mistakes, and we all make mistakes, but we can learn from those, and we want to grow more of when they are doing the right thing, in this case, i.e. telling the truth. With this particular client that I was chatting to, there was one conversation about, and he's 14, so he's not a small child, but where he was given lunch money, and they had discussed prior that the lunch money was to purchase a certain meal, which was a good, healthy meal. And then the child then decided to use the money for foods that weren't so healthy. And the carer of this child, once again, with a beautiful, loving heart, actually, energized the fact that that child had done the wrong thing, instead of, in that moment, the fact that the child actually told the carer that they had done this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to say, I want to acknowledge you. I know that, we discussed that you would buy X with your lunch money and you didn't, but I really want to acknowledge you in this moment for telling me the truth and telling me what you did spend the money on. And that really shows me and tells me so much about you as a person who wants to do the right thing and who is honest and tells the truth. And then I said, as long as it wasn't escalated, or at another time when it wasn't, there was no escalation, where you as a caregiver or parent are not feeling escalated and the child's not feeling escalated, you could perhaps discuss with the child that, if we decide on what you're going to buy for your lunch with this money, I'm happy to continue giving you lunch money if you're happy to, to stick to what we say, to stick to what we share. And then perhaps if they don't agree to that, and maybe you could just say, when you're ready to, to stick to our agreement, then I'm happy to give you lunch money once a week or twice a week or whatever it is. So you're not really punishing them, but you're actually letting them know what the rule is. And the rule is that if we make a decision, or if there's a rule in the home, that, that there are consequences if you don't stick to them. And the same goes with, so many other things that we want to teach kids. But telling the truth, I think, is a really big one, isn't it? And I mean, let's face it, even as adults, sometimes we tell untruths, and sometimes it's so as not to hurt somebody's feelings, or, it might be just to save embarrassment, for example. Not all lies are, to be deceitful, etc. But, I think as parents, we have to be great role models and even call ourselves out sometimes. In the Nurtured Heart approach, we have a stand 3, which is absolute clarity around rules and around consequences. And we also teach the reset. So, for example, if we catch ourselves telling an untruth or stretching the truth or saying something that isn't right, we can actually call ourselves out and say, look, I'm just going to reset. I wasn't really thinking clearly just then. That really wasn't how it happened. I was stretching the truth a little bit, or I said it differently because I didn't want to hurt the person's feelings, but I actually want to come clean because, my integrity is important to me, and being honest and telling the truth is important to me as well. And the kids will learn so much from that if they see their parents or caregivers or adults around them calling themselves out on their on their integrity and their honesty and their truthfulness. So I hope that helps. And sometimes as adults, we have to really think about the example that we are to the younger people around us, to our children, our grandchildren, if we're a teacher, to our students, for example. I've been sharing something that I actually heard from somebody on Facebook the other day that I've decided to adopt, called the BOP. And I really like it. So the BOP, I know that is an old dance called the BOP, but this is an acronym. So B is for breathe, O is for open your heart, and P is for pause. So once again, we can teach this to the children by teaching them the BOP, so that when you're feeling escalated, or if you're not feeling great about something, or sad or angry or upset with somebody or something, let's do the BOP. And we could do it together or we could do it separately. And that's just to breathe, take some deep breaths, get yourself centered again, open your heart up and ask yourself, what is it I really want in this moment? How do I want to feel in this moment? And most kids, I'm sure, sorry, I'll finish. The P is to then pause. So breathe, open your heart, think about, what it is you really want. How do you want to feel? And pause, give yourself those seconds or minutes if you need them to come back and really have yourself in a place. So you might be able to teach your kids that, they might be in a situation where you might say, oh, who ate the biscuits, for example, and the child might have been ready to deny it when they know they did it, i.e. tell a lie, stretch the tooth, tell an untruth. And if you teach them the reset or the BOP, you might be able to help them to self-regulate, so they don't get to the point of telling that untruth. You might be able to teach them to breathe, open your heart. How is it you really want to feel? What is it you really want? Okay, I want to be truthful. I took the biscuit. I need to own up to it. Pause. And so the kid would then say, Mum, it was me. I took the biscuit, and then the mum, hopefully, or the dad, whoever it is then going to acknowledge them for their truthfulness in that moment. So hopefully that makes sense today. And I know that it's a quality that we want to grow in our children, to be honest and truthful. So I hope my shares today were helpful to you. I've got a couple of minutes left, so I want to quickly touch on a couple of things. We did our Nurture Your Heart to Greatness masterclass on Monday night, called How to Parent Right Side Up to Improve Behaviour and Strengthen Connections. It was an amazing masterclass. We had naturopath Nathan on there. I had 2 or 3 other people share. My husband Andrew shared on behalf of the dads, and it was a really amazing masterclass. And I got amazing feedback and heartfelt recognition and feedback from the masterclass. If you haven't caught it and you would like to catch it, please let me know. I'll actually pop the link below for your convenience, but I'm actually happy to have a chat to anybody who wants to know more about what I do with the Nurtured Heart approach. We are going to be launching 2 new courses in May. So one will be, and so far the people I've spoken to are more interested in the longer course, which is the 6-month course, because that's really going to give us the time to really get into the Nurtured Heart approach and teach it, just like if I was teaching you another language, a little bit at a time, teaching it, practicing it, refining it, talking about it, asking questions, just like with this client of mine who had the discussion about the young man being untruthful. We could have had that in the group and everybody would have benefited from that discussion. So I love the group discussions. They're very, very important. So we also will be offering our 9-week Nurture Your Heart to Greatness course for those who just want the quick, short, sharp course. So both of those courses will be on offer. And I did put forward some early bird specials, which actually, I'm not giving you a lot of time, I know, but they actually finish off tonight at 9:30 p.m. this evening. However, if you let me know that you've just watched the replay today and you need a little bit of extra time, if you need another day, I'll be happy to extend that to 9:30 p.m. on Thursday, just to give you that extra day to get your thoughts together and to get yourself organised. So that's the masterclass and the courses. And I also wanted to share that I would love to offer a giveaway of this book, The Best Me I Can Be. So this is a personal development book for children. It's probably relevant to children mainly from about 5 to maybe 13. So kind of primary school age children, but it can be used for older people. It's a personal development workbook for kids to help them with their self-image and self-esteem, etc. I wrote it in 2005, so it was my second book that I wrote, and I would like to offer that as a gift to anybody listening in today. You can have this book for free, the hard copy. So just contact me. It's actually a workbook. So, and it's got spiral binding so that you can easily, turn the pages over and read them. And then on the pages where you have activities and things, for example, like that to fill in, it's a lot easier to do. The yellow pages are pages with quotes relating to the prior chapter. So we match today, yellow. So all you will need to do is pay for the postage to get that to you. So if you've got 1 or 2 or 3 children, I'm happy to send you 2 or 3. If you've got 3 children or grandchildren in that age bracket, all you'll need to do is pay for whatever the postage is to send them off. So let me know in the comments or just message me privately if you would like one or some of those for your family. That's my gift to you today. So I hope that you get the chance to watch the masterclass as well. I'm really passionate about what we shared in it around our journey that we had with our son and around the Nurtured Heart approach. So that's it from me today. Hope you got some value from this topic about, telling untruths and how to handle them. If you want any further clarification, I'm happy to catch up for a quick call with you. So just let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. I know it's a bit of a tricky topic, and some people might have differing opinions to mine, but that's okay. So if you got something from it, I'm pleased. So have an amazing day. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I truly hope you get the chance to watch the masterclass. And if you're interested in any of the courses or early bird offers, just reach out and let me know either by email. You can see my email there, parentsupportnetwork.com.au. I've even given you my phone number, or you can connect with me on Facebook. That's it from me, Lillian Reiki, parenting strategist from Parent Support Network, equipping parents to enjoy happy and healthy children and relationships on purpose. Bye for now.